Hey guys, it's Mark. If you're new to the channel, I work with established online business founders in their 30s, 40s, and 50s who have had enough of the grind and the hustle and want to get back to building their business, but staying in alignment as to why they started it in the first place. And today I'm going to tell you about a very personal story of mine. Now, I was 3 businesses in and I felt more confused than when I started. You would think that experience would make decisions easier. But here's what nobody tells you about being an established founder. The noise just gets louder and not quieter. Every day, we've got new AI tools promising to 10x your business, LinkedIn experts with their one simple trick, podcast guests sharing contradictory advice about what worked for them. And there you are, midnight, thinking, how should I pivot to TikTok and implement a new funnel system or completely rebuild your product range because some 25-year-old entrepreneur that raised 2 million doing the opposite of what you've been doing was successful. If you're over 35 and running an online business that was supposed to give you freedom, but instead it feels like it's running you, this hits different than it did in your 20s. You've likely got kids, soccer games, aging parents, a mortgage, and the answer is not simply to hustle harder, and that will not get you out of your confusion. The overwhelming noise isn't just annoying, it's expensive, and I've learned this the hard way. Clarity is not about all the answers, it's about knowing which questions to ignore. We're going into 2026, and the skill that separates the thriving founders from exhausted ones is not simply learning more tactics. It's having the discipline to ignore 90% of what crosses your feed. Think about last month in your business specifically. How many hours did you spend researching new strategies which you ultimately never implemented? How many quick wins turned into abandoned projects? And what was the cost of all this mental energy in time as well, and in momentum lost by you second guessing For me personally, I once spent 6 weeks rebuilding an entire email system because an expert said to me that my current approach was dead. 6 weeks I lost, and the new system performed way worse than the old one. And I'd missed, crucially, within those 6 weeks, opportunities that I was distracted from because I was so focused in on this specific one small part of my business. And the economic value of clarity is not just fast execution, it's the compound effect of consistent effort in one direction instead of like scattering your energy in 12 different ways. Now, the real investment in business, this is my second point for today, is in tools and mindsets. For me personally, after business number 3 had pretty much imploded, largely because I kept switching strategies midstream and fell out of love with it, I realized I needed help, and that was not going to be from another course, system, or short-term tactic. What I really needed was somebody who could help me see my business clearly from the outside in. And that is where the birth of Founders Aligned came from, because the framework that I built around that allows that simplicity to come through and to remove all of the tactical focus. It might feel counterintuitive, but the framework allows you to not add more systems, but systematically subtract from what you're doing and focus on clarity. Now, we have 3 clarity filters. We've got the legacy filter, which is, will this matter to my business in 18 months? Or am I just reacting to this week's particular trend? We've got the energy filter. Does this energize me or drain me? Now, if you're over 35, you can't afford energy drains disguised as growth opportunities because chances are you don't have the energy to give for that. And then finally, we've got the simplicity filter. So does this make my business simpler to run for me or more complex? Let's think about the practical kind of application. Every opportunity, a new idea, every you should try this gets filtered through these three questions. If it doesn't pass all three, it's an automatic no. And hey, it's not about perfectionism. It's about protecting your focus like the finite resource that it is. On to point number 3, translating clarity into action. The, the, the most important thing for you is taking clear actions and implementing them. And for me, the breakthrough moment came when I stopped trying to implement every single good idea and started implementing only the right ideas for where my business was going. And when I say my business, I really mean that, my business, because someone else's ideas and off the shelf tactics are not necessarily going to be right for your business. And most founders tend to stumble at this point. They get clarity internally and then they fail to communicate that externally. And that can rub off on your team as well. Your team doesn't need to know about every strategy you've considered and rejected. I once worked with a founder who was quite regularly calling the team into a meeting and just talking about exciting new ideas that they'd got and things that they really couldn't execute on at that time. And what that did was take focus and distract the team and stop them working in the efficient manner that the founder actually needed them to. The team need to know what you're focusing on and why it matters, and the clarity of your communication is about sharing your thought process, but only when you're sure on the strategy and the reasoning behind it, and that what you intend to do will reach the conclusion that you and the team are all aiming for. Having said that, the clarity is not a static thing. Like, market conditions do change and your business evolves, but the framework should remain. Regular check-ins where you say to yourself, what are we saying no to and why? Do this quarterly, do it now. Literally 20 to 30 minutes to review what you're doing, confirm it sort of still aligns with the direction of the business, that where the business is going, the identity of the business, and making sure that you say no to the things that are not serving you anymore. So future-proofing your enterprise. Now, this is what clarity's allowed me to have, and it's like no growth hack ever could. The ability to make decisions quickly because I know exactly what I'm building towards. If you know where you're going, then the next AI tool that launches doesn't disrail you from that. I tend to think less now and wonder whether I should try things. And my filter on that is whether it aligns with my direction. When a competitor does something flashy, I don't scramble to copy them because I trust my path and my inbuilt journey that I've decided on. The best people want to work with leaders who know where they're going. And clarity is not just about internal decision making, it's about creating an environment where talented people want to contribute because the vision's clear, the vision that comes from you, the founder of the business. Now, at 35 plus, you're not building a business to necessarily prove something to the world. You're building something that gives you the freedom that you sought, the freedom that supports your life, creates value, lasts, gives a legacy. And at this stage of the business, that requires more discipline to ignore the noise and the courage to kind of stick with what works. The 3 businesses that I managed and built taught me that more information doesn't lead to better decisions, but the clearer criteria about what you're doing does. And ultimately, my own framework, which I'm now sharing, saved my 4th business and this business by allowing me to see what I'd been missing previously and the power of strategic subtraction. So if you are tired of the noise and you want to focus on what actually moves the business forward without sacrificing the freedom that you started this journey to find, then comment below and tell me, what have you learned from this video? Start with one simple practice before you implement anything new this week. Run it through the 3 filters: legacy, energy, and simplicity. And subscribe, because this is something that I'm going to be talking about more in the future. Overall, you'll probably be surprised by how much clarity comes from finally knowing what to ignore.